Hello, my Mercurial mercenaries. Bear with me. I'm still ill. Kill Bill. Can't hear properly. Can't listen to music. So I thought I'd just talk bollocks to you. This is, excuse me with the hood. I'm not trying to look younger than my years or anything. I'm just a little bit cold, even though it's boiling in here. This is ostensibly a video about Tame Impala. However, there's going to be 3 phases to this video. I just thought of it a minute ago because I was stumbling upon something. Not literally, stumbling with my eyes. Tame Impala, there's a leak today. It's called It Might Be Time. So there's a song out there, if you can find it, called It Might Be Time. So this is following Patience and Borderline. And what happened was, I saw people talking about this new song. I haven't heard it myself, but I saw people talking about it. And it reminded me of conversations we had earlier this year around the time of Patience and Borderline. And I liked those songs. I liked the commercial slant of them. I liked the fact that they sounded like pop songs that everybody could enjoy. And with the leak of this new song today, this little topic is coming up again. People frightened that the next Tame Impala album might be commercial. And you made comments on my previous video about this, and this isn't having a go at anybody. I can understand, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But people were saying comments like, I want pop, I want good music, but I don't necessarily want them to become Coldplay. But you do realise there at the moment, the way that Kevin Parker is now starting to headline festivals, you do realise that it's kind of inevitable in a way that Tame Impala might become like Coldplay. But Coldplay are such a derided band. When you think about it, what are Coldplay doing that's so bad? I'm not a particular Coldplay fan, but what are they doing that's so bad? And that's what we're going to touch upon here, I suppose. Because there's the assumption amongst some people, or the fright to their hearts that a band that they love might make an album that's commercial. And I suppose my point is, when did being commercial, and this isn't me arguing particularly one way or the other, this is a genuine discussion here. I'm ill and I want to read your comments, because I enjoy reading your comments. But at what point did being commercial become bad? Now, in my youth, I would listen to bands like Iron Maiden or Wolfsbane, or I don't know, Jeff Buckley, Blur, Pulp, Oasis, all these different bands. At what point, some of those bands I've just mentioned, I would say aren't particularly commercial. When I was listening to Primus, or sort of early Alice Cooper albums. But also, when I think back to my youth, I was listening to the Ghostbusters song, I was listening to Michael Jackson albums, Thriller, I was listening to Aha in the 80s, great band. That commercial, Queen, commercial, the Beatles, some of the greatest bands of all time could definitely be labelled commercial. So, you've got a band like Tame Impala right now, who have released 3 albums, Inner Speak, Colonism, Currents, and the fan base, perhaps if you're worried that Kevin Parker's going towards commerciality, that the assumption is that what he's already done in the past isn't commercial. But, I mean, the vocals, John Lennon, there's a certain pop nuance, pop style with his writing. It's always been there. Currents, it became more electronic. He has a catchy bone in his body, and that's what you want. And I suppose as you become more successful, which is what every musician wants, you will be labelled by people as being more commercial. And did a band like, I remember when Coldplay first started, they were just an indie band with songs like Shiver and Yellow. They probably wanted to be successful, and now they're seen as commercial. Would they have taken that in the beginning? When Kevin Parker released his first EP or whatever, if he could have sort of done a deal with the devil right then, and they'd said to him, Mr. Parker, shake our hand right now, and you can headline the main stage of Glastonbury in 2020, and people around the world will love your music. You might be termed commercial, though. I think he probably would have grasped at that and said, yeah, all right then, and clasped the devil's hand and just shaken it vigorously, even perhaps sexually. So this is just a little piece to camera, really, about the people that are kind of worried when they heard Patience and Borderline. Now, if it's because you don't like the songs, that's different again. If you genuinely don't like them and you don't want to listen to them, you don't want him to go in that direction, that's fine. He may well make an album, The Slow Rush. He might well bring it out. You might well not like it. And look, I suppose for Tame Impala fans, if there's only 3 albums that exist and you like them all, and you got a fan base. I remember what it was like to be young and really into music and really into certain bands, and you consider yourself a fan. I might have even signed up to be a part of the fan club and had a Nasher badge, with the hairs on it or something. But I understand. And then you worry, would there be anything wrong in not liking the 4th album? However, if you do like Patience and Borderline, but you're just worried that it sounds like he's just becoming just the same as everybody else, and that's what you mean by commercial, Kevin Parker's now just sounding like everybody else, I suppose that's a different worry. It might even be a legitimate concern. But if Kevin Parker's doing what he wants to do, and you hear it, and you get something from it, and you like it, then who cares? Music is supposed to mean something. It doesn't always have to be written from personal experience and be written from the heart. You can go the King Gizzard route, like people said in my comments section, where you just write stories and take people on adventures. But whatever the artist intends, I think it's about intention. Whatever the artist intends, if you understand the intention, and I suppose if you enjoy the intention, you can. There is certainly music out there that I enjoy because I don't particularly like it, and that sounds weird. But there's some difficult music out there. If you're listening to certain songs by certain prog rock bands or Captain Beefheart or something, it's perfectly respectable to also enjoy music that you don't particularly think, music is art. Music is difficult to talk about. But you like what you like. And there's a worry when it comes to the Tame Impala fans that Kevin Parker is going commercial. Some of the collaborations he's done, some of the writing he's done, I understand. And I suppose there's 2 facets to that, isn't there? Number 1, you're worried that he's becoming commercial and therefore you won't like his music anymore. Number 2, you're worried that he's becoming commercial, so everyone will like his music and therefore you'll have to hate it. And I understand that too, because I'm quite contrary like that. If everyone likes something, I have to try my best to hate it. Right, if everyone loves something, I try my best to hate it. If everyone likes something, I try my best to dislike it. Let's not go to extremes here. But that takes me on to the sort of second part of this video, which we've just touched on. But what is so wrong with being commercial? Because there was a time when bands were commercial. Commercial just means that you sell music. Commercial just means being popular. And bands could be experimental to a certain extent and commercial. So I would say one of the most experimental sort of pop songs of all time. I mean, it's in the top 100 or whatever. Is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Now, it's commercial, right? You hear it everywhere. It's commercial. But can you imagine hearing that for the first time? How commercial would that have sounded? Going into opera in the middle. But now it's considered commercial. Commercial's just a label. We've said it already. The Beatles are commercial. The Stones are commercial. Yeah, Coldplay's commercial. U2 are commercial. But it can also just mean that they were good and people liked them. Now, in my quest to try and find the leaked song, it might be time, I stumbled upon an old article, right, an old interview of Kevin Parker. Now, this is from years ago. This is this is from 2015, right? So there's nothing new here. But it made me think. Now, do you remember the stick that Lars Ulrich got in the early noughties when he sort of fought against Napster? Fought against the wave of opinion that was music should be free. Everyone should just be able to listen to whatever they want to. Music should be free. And Lars Ulrich said, no, music has a value. Well, look, the battle was lost. Okay? And we've now reached a point where really, if anyone's totally hand on heart about it and genuine, music no longer has any inherent value. And over the years, it's been argued both ways. There are people out there who truly believe that music shouldn't have any inherent value. And there are people out there who feel that music, the creation of the music in the first place was a job. And the fact that you've put it out there, it's like a product. And of course it's got value. And given that Kevin Parker spends years fine-tuning and perfecting music as a product, that the likes of which I buy in a speaker on vinyl. I buy Lonerism on vinyl. I've got Currents on vinyl. You know, 2, 4, 6, 60 quid. Over 60 quid. It's just interesting, but back in 2015, Kevin Parker, as you can see here, states that, and this is, so 4 years ago, he thinks music should be free. If you read through this article, I feel like music will be free sooner or later, and I think I'm all for it. There's all this talk of music needing a monetary value, this ownership of music, even that it needs a physical form, the vinyl that I bought. But intrinsically, it's music. It should be better than that. Now, the problem here is, well, this is the conversation piece. Do you agree with him or not? It's such a tricky argument. Now, in this little interview he did 4 or 5 years ago, he says that up to a certain point, he never received any money for any of his Tame Impala albums. Now, I don't necessarily think just because you didn't receive any money that you should be being on the side of not receiving any money. You can still fight the fact. But the problem here is that he says, you want to know a story? Up until recently, from all of Tame Impala's record sales outside of Australia, I had received $0. Someone high up spent the money before it got to me. So my 60 quid didn't go to Kevin Parker. It just went to Suits. I mean, we know this. This is the music business historically, all right? There's nothing new here. But then BlackBerry and some tequila brand or something put my song in an ad. Then I bought a house and set up a studio. What Kevin Parker is saying here in this article is that he thinks music should all be free because he makes his money from commercials. Now, he said this 4 years ago, right? Now, to get your music in commercials, and you know the sort of music we're talking here, we're talking like Stiltskin on a Levi advert, or U2 on an iPhone advert, whatever, right? To get your music into mainstream commercials that are going to make you money, You've got to make commercial music. You've got to be a Coldplay or a U2 or a Beatles or a Stones or a Queen or maybe a Tame Impala. Now, the problem here is, so you become somebody, a band, an artist who can create music that is commercial enough to be used in commercials or films or whatever other sort of media revenue source there is. That's fine. That's fine. And maybe that skews your direction. Once you know you're going to make your money and buy your house and buy your studio from making music for commercials, you better make commercial music. And then when your fan base listens to the music you make and says, oh, I'm not sure about that. On the borderline. Boom, ba-dum, bum, bum. Now, like I said, I've liked pretty much everything he's done so far. But people out there, the fan base, are hearing some of this stuff and they're saying, we're not convinced. We don't want Kevin Parker to be commercial. And yet, 4 or 5 years ago, he told you he's going to be commercial. He said it. So that's fine. If you're a band, an artist capable of making commercial music or wanting to make commercial music or being happy making commercial music. Commercial, remember? Commercial, popular. People like what you do and it creates a sort of snowball effect where more and more people like what you do. You become commercial. And then eventually someone will go more than commercial and they'll tell you you've sold out. It's like indie band, like obscure underground. You've got underground, underground, commercial, totally sold out. Now, the problem with being on the side of music inherently having no value and sticking up for it and going, yes, music should be free. We all know, right? Because we all know because we're all told in the newspapers, on the internet, the money to be made these days in the music business is not from recorded works, it's from playing live. So the music's getting put out there, albums, streaming, whatever, doesn't make any money at all. You make all your money by going on these big tours, playing live, selling tickets for high prices. Now, that's fine. But if you're a band that doesn't tour or can't play live, and this happens, people will sit, this happens, all right? People will sit in their little studios and create music that could well be, if people listen to it, that's a whole different issue about people listening to music. People can create music that is just as good as U2 or Tame Impala or King Gizzard. It does happen, right? But these people might not be able to play live. So what the people who say that music inherently has no value, they are saying that the people who consider music an art and aren't necessarily going out and playing to 10,000 people a night, they will make no money. The days of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s are gone. It was always difficult. Very few people ever made money from music. But perhaps we're reaching a point now where, if we're not careful, nobody will make money from listening to music, because even the people out there that are making music that you like are telling you there is no inherent value in it. Now, I know there's two sides to every story, and I'm sure there's some nuance here, and I'm sure if we could have a conversation with Kevin Parker about this little article, I'm sure he'd say, there's a context to it, but that's the thing, really, my mercenaries. Is it a worry that Tame Impala are going to make more commercial music? What's the problem with being a commercial band anyway? Some of my favourite bands were commercial bands. I've named a few of them already. And if we are now saying, if we're all agreeing collectively that music has no inherent value and that the only money to be made from recorded works is through adverts, commercials, placement in films, then my argument is, how are you going to get another Joy Division or a Nirvana. There you go. That's just something I was thinking of while I was yakking up. Comments below, please. I enjoy reading your comments. This video is not a criticism of Kevin Parker. It's more taking issues to do with Tame Impala and things that he said and using them as a springboard just to open the topic up to the floor. You're the floor. You are the floor. You're the floor. Write some comments down below. Over and